The time is now 6:30 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Ott. Trustee Counterman.
Present.
Trustee Doherty. Trustee Jeffrey.
Here.
Trustee Morris. Trustee Strock.
Present.
Everyone is present except Trustee Morris, who is absent. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
A motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is audience business, and we had one speaker slip from Michael Mahoney. Please step forward. State your name and address, please, sir. Yeah. Oh, hit the button there, too.
Mike.
Yeah. Michael Mahoney, 318 Lilac Drive, Lockwood, Colorado, 80603. Mayor and trustees, good evening. Long time no see. Wish I had better reasons to come in here, but right now I'm just bringing this up to you guys. I want to put it out there in front of you because I've gone up the chain of the command within the staff, so I'm now bringing it before the board. As you guys probably know, we have several properties that we are demoing and rebuilding on. One of them we did not get to demo and rebuild because we did lay off a contractor. We had a little issue there. But the issue that I'm coming here for is a water bill. We actually, ironically, we had a water leak to the extent of 200,000 gallons, about $1,666. And the issue is that with all of these properties, we have gone through the same procedures. We contact United Power, Xcel Energy, and the town for gas, electric, and water to have them all shut off. Well, this one, we ended up not demoing it. We did clear it out because we laid the guys off. We ended up getting a phone call from staff saying that we had a high water usage, and it's like, well, we shouldn't have any water usage. And we immediately, my mind goes to, we laid off this contractor. What happened? Did he go over and mess with something? A little bit of paranoia. You start freaking out. And I had been in contact with staff and Mr. Samey as well, and he had actually contacted me back. And the one thing they did do, the board did do, or staff did do, was adjust the rate down, taking out the other tiers, just leaving it at the one tier, brought us just under $1,200. But by this time, we were near the end of the cycle, and we came into another water meter read, and the town had gone out and made sure the water was off, even to the extent that we had said, hey, look, we're a little nervous about all our properties. Can you put locks on the ones that are shut off? And I'm not sure if they did because we don't hit. We assume they did. But they know they checked it and it was off. That following month, another 200,000 gallons came through. And the reason they found was because the valve wasn't functioning. So even when it was off, it was still allowing water to go through. So because of that, and what I've surmised is that, because of that water pressure, even though we had the main off under the house, and water was off at the line, there was still pressure feeding through, which then froze when we got the freeze in November, and the line busted and leaked. So the town picked up the second one because they verified that, the yoke was, but we're still being held for that 1,200, under 1,200. I struggle with that. And I take issue with it because of, now, we have spoken with staff, and one of the things that they had said is that they don't have a work order saying that they shut that water off. The problem with that is there were three of us standing there on the property when Public Works pulled up out in front, parked the opposite direction. I didn't witness him shut the water off, but there was a guy, one truck pulled up. We were actually in the process of cleaning the building out. So we are of the stance that the water was shut off, and we've proven that the issue in the second month was that the yoke was busted. Water still flowed through. So what we're looking for is relief on this, and we haven't gotten to where we want to be with staff. So I'm bringing it before the board. I'm laying it out there to you guys. I know you don't deal with it now. I'm okay with that, putting it out there to you. The only thing I ask right now is that if there's no decision now or as we're waiting on a decision or which way you're going to go, we'd ask that the late fees be waived right now while we're still sitting up. We're still paying all our other fees, making sure that that is kept up, but that large outstanding amount we're leaving right now, trying to get some resolution. So that's all I have. Pretty simple.
And as you know, we don't respond
Okay.
day of, so we'll, yeah. Yes,
What kind of-
someone instituted that policy, yeah. But I'll discuss it with staff and maybe we'll bring it for a discussion item at the next meeting. if that's-
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the only speaker slip I had. Is there anyone else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. For the benefit of our audience, tonight's consent agenda includes the payment approval report in the amount of $481,958.02 and the February 4th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jeffrey. Yes. Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Trustee Counterman. Trustee Morris.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, a motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the financial update. Ms. Redemaker.
Good evening.
Oh, yes, thank you. Just for the record, Trustee Morris appeared at the meeting at 6:32 PM. Thanks. All right, sorry.
Good evening. Denise Rademacher, Finance Director. In your packet this evening, you will see a January 2020 financial statement and a Will County Road 2 widening / roundabout reconciliation type, tracking those two projects. We did do a few modifications to that. We added some more sources of funds that are coming for those projects, in addition to the bond proceeds that were awarded of the $4.6 million. And so we have that there, and the financials. I do want to tell you that in the future, I'm going to have like a little synopsis of each month of identifying accounts that are a little out of whack, if you will. So if you see, it's January and we've already expended 70% of that account, why is that? Some of them are very logical explanations, like we pay CIRSA for the insurance up front. So that would be the workers' comp, that would be your general liability. All of those things are paid up front, one lump sum at the beginning of the year. A lot of other things, such as your dues, memberships, things like that, you'll see those are going to be expended rapidly at the beginning of the year also. But if you see other accounts that look a little out of whack, those are ones that I will come to you with answers and explanations as to why they're not trending the way they should be, based on the period of the year that we're in. So I did look at the January financials, and again, some of those things that are really high expenditures are just as I have said, it's the insurances and things of that nature, dues, things like that, and that would explain why they are running above where they should be at this point in the year. And I did want to give you a little bit of an update of things that I'm trying to get a handle on, and processes and procedures that we're trying to put into place. Right now, I'm making it a point that we are reconciling everything on a monthly basis, that all of the cash clearing accounts for court, for accounts receivable, for utility billing, that those are balanced each month and not via a journal entry, which is what I have found was happening in some months. So I've also empowered the staff that's in charge of these different modules to know and be able to do their job better. And in that case, that's going to require some training. Some people need some training from Cassell on how to manage the modules that they're in charge of, such as court or utility billing. And I am happy to report that January we were able to reconcile the court module and the utility billing module. We've got both of those to balance right now, which is a good first step. So as I said, I'm identifying areas where we need some additional training for the staff that are in charge of those areas to get them up to speed so that they can handle that in the future and going forward. In the payroll module, I'm working on getting our paychecks done via ACH, direct deposit, rather than logging into a bank and having to manually input everybody's check amounts, which that's just wrought with human error, and I don't want to do that. I want to send a file to the bank that has everybody's and be done with it. So it eliminates the error potential that can happen there. So I'm working with Cassell on getting that done, hopefully for the next payroll, that's next week. So that'll be gone just via ACH, a direct deposit file. I'm working on getting all of the accounts receivables with the developers, getting them all reconciled. I've gone through every account that we have right now, development-wise, and reconciled back. I think Steve and I have a meeting this week with one or two of them to go over their accounts to make sure that we're all on the same page and that the balances that we show that are due are in fact due. So I'll be doing those bills this week also. So accounts receivable is moving forward. And I will, once we get those cleaned up and reconciled and everything, you will be getting a monthly AR aging report, which will show you how much is outstanding for each of the developments that is going on in the town. So you'll be seeing that as part of your monthly financial package also. Sales tax, I brought this up the last meeting that I was at, how I had looked at the November report and I saw a lot of refunds to one particular vendor in the tens of thousands of dollars over the last 3 years. I'm happy to report, and I don't know that it was based on my questioning the state, but all of those were reversed. So we got all of that money back from that particular vendor for the last 3 years, and it was in the $40,000 range. And then I looked at the December report and I saw some reversals from 2017 for another vendor. And so I contacted the state again, just inquiring as to why those were happening. And they actually reversed those that same day and fixed those. They said that the vendor had amended the returns to 0, and it was for 3 months in 2017. So they went back and corrected those also. So I'd like to say I have a little part in that, but maybe I'm just bringing it to their attention. But long and short of it is that I think it pays to look at those reports, and I am looking at them on a monthly basis now. And anything like that, especially if we do refunds, I will be questioning the state as to why we're refunding a vendor any money. So that's that part. And then last but not least, I'm trying to reconcile every single liability account that's out there and making sure that they are true balances and that, some of them I am finding that we've paid and I can show that we've paid. And so I'm removing them off of our financial statements. And others, I'm just wanting to get to a good balance so that I know that is exactly what the town owes in that particular account. So that's all just a process of going one by one and reconciling each one of them. And then last but not least, when you look at the financial statements, which I encourage you all to do on a monthly basis, if you see accounts that maybe there wasn't any amount budgeted, but you see activity in that account, it's because I'm trying to post things where logically they should be posted. That's the only way you're going to get a true idea of where your money's being spent. And that will help in the budgeting process. So as you budget, if you know what you spent, it's going to make that budgeting process a little easier. Whereas if you don't know where things are in your budget and what account they should be coming in or out of, it makes budgeting kind of a challenge, and you don't really know truly where your money's going. So you may see some accounts where there was no money budgeted, but there's activity. That's because that's where it should be hitting. And so just putting that little caveat out there. But I'll bring those to your attention too and explain to you what I'm posting in that account and why. So with that, if you have any questions, I can answer them at this time.
Excuse me, any questions or comments? Trustee Strack?
Thank you very much for checking into those accounts that you did,
Oh, sales tax, yes.
keeping that money. And so it's kind of like you said, a lot of times I look at the end of like the general fund or the water or the sewer fund at the revenues, over expenditures or under expenditures and stuff. And so tonight, when I was looking at the general fund, I see that we were $1.2 million over what we'd spent. But then when I look back at the revenues that came in, I see that we had developer reimbursements.
Right, that
Which
hit.
were all the money. So
Yeah, that's a lot, that's a large part of it.
thank you. It's just like you said, it's all right here if we
Right.
just look for it.
Yeah,
So,
and if you have questions, just ask me, and I'm here every day. Just
Thank you.
email me or ask me, and I can get you some answers. So,
all right.
Anyone else? Thank you for your update.
well,
Next item on the agenda is action item 8A, which is the public hearing concerning the sign code revisions. Ms. John?
We studied this ordinance and had a discussion on it at the last board meeting. Some of you had questions for me related to what this will do to Christmas displays. And I had sent you all an email indicating that by removing the definition of temporary displays and works of art, and then also removing them from the exemption, what we're trying to do is avoid any content-based regulation at all. And that what we would do is treat displays like that as non-signs, essentially. And so I wanted to put you at ease about that. This ordinance, as you know, came from Mr. Dahl, who had been working with Martin Landers on our land development code when we redid it in 2017. It basically deletes murals, works of art, and temporary decorations and displays and their exemptions from the code. It slightly edits the definition of a sign to remove some content-related language that he identified in his review of our code language again. And it increases this yard sign allowance from 1 to 4. So that's essentially what this ordinance does as amendments to our sign code. And I am here for questions.
Questions or comments? Trustee Morris?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the extra in-depth looking into this, and thank you for resolving the concerns. As I brought up previously, my biggest concern is I don't want to infringe or impede or encumber people from being able to have their holiday displays, flag displays, 4th of July displays, whatever the holiday is, as long as council is comfortable that we're not going to create a hardship for anyone being able to display what they want, then I'm okay with this as presented.
Anyone else? Trustee Strack?
I'm fine with this ordinance. I just wanted to comment that on County Road 2, there are 4 or 5 big signs that are selling properties over in Brighton in Adams County. So I thought that was kind of strange. So that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? And this is a public hearing, so I am going to open the public hearing at 6:48 PM. If there's any members of the public that wish to speak on this. Seeing none, I will close this. Oh,
Mike Mahoney, 318 Lilac Drive, Lockwood, Colorado. Just real quick, you said reducing the sign, or changing the size, is it, from 1 to 4? Or number of yard signs? Okay. Gotcha. Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
the first public comment we've had on a public hearing in like 3 months. So now I will close it at 6:49 PM, having taken public comment. In light of the public comment, any further board comments? Any further board comments? Then I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 2020-652, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lockbowie, Colorado, amending Articles 6 and 7 of Chapter 19 of the Lockbowie Municipal Code, Land Development Code, concerning signs.
A motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty. Trustee Morris.
Yes.
Trustee Counterman.
Yes.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Thank you.
Carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is action item 8B, ordinance 2020-654, the temporary moratorium on storage uses and motor vehicle washes. Ms. Duran.
As you recall, the town has in effect a current moratorium, well, it actually has a couple right now, one on oil and gas development, which will be lifted, if it's not already lifted, upon the effective date of the new oil and gas regulations that you adopted at your last board meeting. So here very shortly, that moratorium is going to go away. We have a second moratorium that was put in place at the last board meeting on fueling station and truck stop uses and processing of applications for such uses while we look at standards and conditional issues that the board might want to address in determining whether or not to grant conditional use permits for those type of issues. Those kind of uses and ensuring that we've done our homework and put standards in place to reduce those nuisance effects. In looking at that and looking through the code, and particularly at some of the uses that we're seeing lately, and some of those uses that have a conditional use attached to them, we identified also that motor vehicle washes and storage facilities are really types of uses that make some sense to put some development standards in place because they're becoming somewhat prolific. And we want to make sure that if and when they're coming to the community, they're being developed in a way that you feel is fitting with what you want to see with the community as it goes forward. So what this ordinance does is it just really adds to the existing moratorium that you have in effect on fueling stations and truck stops. It doesn't extend that one, and it doesn't make these additional uses, just adds them to it, so that on July 20th, I believe, of this year, when that moratorium is set to expire on fueling stations and truck stops, it will also expire on these other uses. And in the meantime, we are meeting as a staff to try to figure out what the issues are and what the proposed standards might be for you to look at and consider, and it's our goal to try to get those in place and in front of you here really, really quickly. So.
Questions or comments? I think we've discussed this one pretty ad nauseum, and I'm just going to say that I'm going to support this tonight for the same reasons I supported the moratorium on gas station development, which is we need to know what we want these things to look like and where we want them to be in our community before we become nothing but a gas station and truck stop town. So for that reason, I'm going to support it tonight. Any other comments or questions? Trustee Doherty?
So when I read through section 7, maybe it's covered and I didn't see it, but it talks about indoor storage, outdoor storage / screened. I want to just make sure that we're not doing this for like somebody who needs to pull a permit to put a shed in their backyard.
No, these are defined terms in the land development code. These are land uses like outdoor storage screen would be some of these RV storage places where we have screening requirements, that kind of thing.
That's fine. We just read like we were doing it.
It doesn't, so where there's an accessory storage related to a residential property, it wouldn't be affected by this.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Trustee Stratt?
I just have a comment about the outdoor storage and the indoor storage and all that. To me, it's kind of the epitome of the American dream. So that's all. Thank you.
Anything else? I will enter.
Emergency ordinance, Mayor.
Trustee Morris?
Thank you. I just would like to verbalize my support of the measure also. I think that it's necessary due to the constraints of the town and the limited amount of commercial space that we do have. I think it is definitely warranted and necessary to take a closer look at our code, the land development code, and our use issues, and make sure that we are regulating them to promote the health, safety, wellness, welfare, all of the good stuff for the town, and not let this or anything else create an oversaturation issue in the town. So I'm in favor of it as well.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2020-654, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lockbowie, Colorado, establishing a temporary moratorium on the acceptance or processing of new applications for storage uses and motor vehicle washes and declaring an emergency.
Second.
A motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lofgren. Yes. Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Morris.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Counterman.
Yes.
Vote of 7-0, the ordinance passes. Next item is police equipment. Chief McCoy.
Okay, so since we're going to be asking you for money, I'm going to let Lieutenant Ramirez do that. That's why I came prepared.
Good evening. So, how's everybody doing? Pretty good, all right. So early this year, we found out that Windows 7 is no longer going to be supported by Microsoft after 2020. We were also told by Will County Dispatch Technical Support that they will no longer support Windows 7 for our computers. Our CAD system, which is computer-aided dispatch software that we use currently in our cars, which means that every fire department, police department across Will County had to switch to Windows 10 at the end of January of 2020. So basically, this meant that every tablet that we use in our patrol cars already had to be updated in order to keep our computers, our CAD system working in our patrol cars. We currently use the tablets in our patrol cars for our MDTs, so like I said, mobile data terminals. We've been using the tablets for about 7 years, and they've been working great. They have been running Windows operating system, and Timberland IT upgraded our terminals last month to Windows 10, and that's when the problems are starting to happen. One of our tablets completely died because of the upgrade, because of the switch, and others are now running just slow altogether. Sometimes our GPS works in the cars, and sometimes it doesn't. The speed of our tablets, of our computers, is crucial because the officers are not only getting updated information as they're driving to a call and actually multitasking, driving, talking on the radio, looking to see what's going on, and the problems keep on just amounting. So because of the age of our tablets, they can no longer handle any more future upgrades, and which basically renders our tablets useless at this point. We have been planning to replace the tablets one at a time as we get new cars for our fleet. This year would have been the beginning of getting a new tablet, latest and greatest for our car. But we have been forced to make a change now and replace all 9 of our tablets. We've received several quotes from several vendors, and coming up with different solutions to what we need, either tablets or laptops. But from the initial quotes, it appears as though replacing all 9 mobile data terminals will cost us up to $55,000, including hardware and setup costs. We did not budget any money for our MDTs this year, as our tablets were working great, and we had no idea that the upgrade to Windows 10 would create this problem for us. We will try to keep the cost low while choosing the best solution, but we respectfully request the board approve the police department to spend no more than $55,000 to purchase and set up all 9 of our mobile data terminals for our vehicles.
Comments? Trustee Counterman?
I was wondering, are we using all 9 vehicles at the same time?
No, we don't.
So could you equip 4 of them and just use those 4 and have a gradual process of
Well,
getting
you
those?
can, but what's gonna happen is, so like on our common days and our Wednesdays, there's gonna be officers, I'll have 3 officers that won't have no terminals while the other ones are being used.
So just, go ahead. I was going to say that so we issue a tablet per car, and then a couple of extras is really what it is. We don't have 9 cars. But so it is a tablet per car, and then we have a couple extras when they go down, because inevitably they do go down, and we have to send them back in for repair or something else. So that we have a couple of them just for redundancy purposes.
I don't have a problem with the request, but do we need to go through the 3 bid process to be legitimate on this?
We've had more than 3 bids so far. We're going out to several places looking for we went out to the same place that we're using right now for our tablets, which is Bright Computers. They have Fujitsu tablets that we use. They're commonly used by police departments for this. We're looking at Panasonic Toughbooks and tablets. We're also looking at Zebra tablets. There's another company called Genetech that make laptops. Right. So we're going through, we want to make sure, if we have to do this, we want to make sure that we're going to get the best solution for us right now and for the future.
Anyone else? Trustee Morris?
Yeah, for the benefit of the board, I would like to comment just that having accurate, timely information for our police officers is not necessary, it's critical. The price tag is shocking a little bit, but it is the difference between walking into a nosebleed and walking into a violent crime in progress that these guys may or may not be aware of. And without updated, current, and accurate information, it could be a matter of life and death, not to them, not just to them, but to the civilians that they're responding to. So, like I said, it's critical, not necessary. And if we can find it in the budget to make this happen, then I would strongly encourage us to do so.
Trustee Strack?
I would agree that it is critical. It's quite a bit. Do we have the money in our budget for this?
We can do the purchase, then when we come back at the end of the year, like in August, September, start doing the budget, we would then look at overall budget and process a budget amendment with the adoption of the next year's budget.
Slow down buying a police car or something?
No promises.
Trustee Doherty?
Thank you. Does the new police car come with that Windows 10?
Trustee Doherty?
So I have a couple of questions. I really don't have any overarching concerns. I think it's fine. But I guess I would like to better understand what's all entailed with it's essentially $6,100 a computer, and built computers. And I know from when we buy police cars that it's more than just the police car. There's a lot that goes into it. But just for, I guess, my own understanding, rather than seeing, hey, here's the overall price tag, and here's this, like it goes to software and install and the hardware as well. If there was what that really entails, so we can really see, so right now from what you said, we don't know if it's $6,000 for the tablet and then $111 for everything else. And again, I'm more curious on that, just so we can kind of see and understand what's making it add up to that. Again, I don't have any real major concerns or hesitations that, it's wrong. I'm just more curious than anything. The second question that I have is actually going backwards a little bit with the upgrades to Windows 10. It's our outside IT that did this?
So it's Spillman, so it's Will County. So we obviously get dispatch from Will County, and they will no longer support it.
Oh, and I get that, but they didn't upgrade our devices.
Oh, no, Timberland did.
So my biggest concern, honestly, with that is that we should have understood, and I think we should have understood how old the devices are. Windows specifically tells you, what can be supported, what devices are good with it or not. I mean, they did the same thing with Windows 7 and Vista, which sucked even worse than Windows 10. I mean, so we have information on, recommendations on making these upgrades. And my concern, honestly, is more that we made that upgrade and now are surprised by this. Because honestly, if they're as old as you say they are, I don't do IT all the time, but that doesn't sound all that surprising to me. And so that's more of my concern, is if this upgrade's taking you down. If this could have been a conversation we had a month ago, we could have, gone through January with you up and running with Windows 7 and then made this crossover a month ago. So again, maybe not purely relevant to this specific conversation about this purchase, but I'm a little frustrated, honestly, that that's not something that was known ahead of time. That's something that I would have some expectation that our IT team knows.
Can I take that part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna let you take the first part, but I'm gonna take the second part. So the second part of your question there, with the surprise of it all and IT, we're just as surprised by that as you are. I would have expected that if this was gonna create a problem for us, that somebody would have let us know that, right? Because I'm not an IT guy, right? And he's not, so that's why we have him. So we all knew we were going to 10, and there was never any question other than, hey, we got to do this. And then there was kind of a surprise as we got closer. Well, when we found out that Spillman, our computer dispatch system that Weld County has, said we'll no longer support Windows 7 at the end of January 2020. Well, that then hurried us up even more, right? We thought we still had the rest of this year to continue with Windows 7. We don't. And so we had to upgrade, and then everybody was surprised when it didn't work, or at least we were, because nobody said anything to us like, well, when we upgrade these, they might not work very well anymore, until they didn't work. And then they said, well, they're old, so you can expect that they're not going to work very well. I wish we'd have known that when we were doing our budget, because we would have been doing this then, which is when we should have been doing this, right? So, yeah, that's been addressed. And so I hope they understand now how frustrated we are with that specific issue, but it doesn't really change where we are now.
That's what we pay him for. I mean, there's not anybody in this room right now that I think that is being paid to do IT, right? So, I mean, we're paying people to be experts, and I think that's the expectation we should have. And so I'm a little frustrated with that, because it sounds like you are as well.
Yes, we are too.
So, that's really all I have. I guess actually, well, I'll just bring that up with trustee comments. That's it.
So as far as the cost concern, for the MDTs in the cars, it's not just putting an Apple in there or nothing like that. I mean, they're a little bit more beefier and a lot more weather resistant as far as, temperatures and cold, hot, and all this other good stuff. But it's not just changing just the tablet itself. I mean, I wish it was that easy just to change a tablet and put another one in there, but it's not. We have to change the whole setup that we have inside the car to fit the latest and the greatest on the new tablets that come in. I mean, and these ones are, I mean, it depending on which ones we choose, there are beefier. I mean, if you sit on one, you won't have that issue. It probably won't break as easy as these ones did. I mean, they learn from what we have now, and then obviously, they keep on upgrading them as you go. But that's where they get you. Unfortunately, is just I mean, it's not cheap. I mean, I wish it were, and I wouldn't be here.
Let me add a little bit to it. With up to $55,000, that's the Cadillac of this situation. I don't believe that we're going to spend that much money on this, but I want to make sure that we so we need to do this soon, and I want to make sure that we have enough money that if something comes out of left field that we're not back here asking you again. So the $55,000 would be Panasonic, the premium Panasonic Toughbooks, which are over $5,000 per computer, plus the mounting hardware and docking stations. It's over $1,000 for those things. So that's the Cadillac of it all. I don't believe that we're going to do that, but I don't want to limit what we're doing when we're looking at these things, if that makes sense to you.
Hatterman?
Does the 55 have to all be paid at once? Can we graduate that over the year, or we get the computers now and pay on them? How does that work?
You just purchase them. You just buy them outright, and then you pay the. Part of this is also paying our IT people to set them up and do all that. So it's not all going to the same person. So we got to buy the laptops and the hardware or the tablets, and then we have to pay our IT people to set them up. So but yeah, we have to pay for it's not a financing thing.
Steve, is there any way to pay for that over a period of time? No. What you're saying is no. It's okay. Well, I don't think there's any question about us needing them. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, and I don't think we have a choice. You know, we have to get them. I was just wondering about the finances, if there was something different we could do, so that's all I have.
Trustee Ott?
Chief and Trustee Doherty brought up an interesting point. I'm certainly no IT guy, witness the flip phone. But I know that going from Windows 7 to Windows 10 is a cluster. I could have told you that. So do we have any recourse against these people that charge us to do the upgrades, which was a miserable fail? I mean, they are IT guys. They should have known it was going to be a disaster.
Well, I don't know if everybody knew it was a disaster until it was a disaster, but.
I mean, if you ask the layman, I'm a layman on IT stuff, it's a mess.
But did, you may not have known that until after it was a mess. Right, yeah, so I don't know.
I wonder if we have any recourse, because they should have known that it was going to be a disaster, is my feeling.
I mean, I guess, I think that's more of a staff conversation with them, but I guess the one thing I would throw in there is, if they did all this work to upgrade them and it killed them all, are they gonna give us some kind of discount when they now install software on the brand new ones we had to buy?
I don't know, we can certainly negotiate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can ask.
Trustee Doherty?
It may not be something we can do due to time, but I'm curious if we're the only department in the area that has this issue. And my curiosity would be if instead of 9, we go in with Brighton and they need 10, and we go with Fort Lupton and they need 8. And now all of a sudden we have 30. I know that math didn't work out, but.
I'm an engineer.
We're
good.
So, but now we're, around 30.
You are an
So,
IT guy.
whatever. Are they able to get a discount if we were to bring in other departments that have something of the same issue?
So I think that we're probably getting that discount already, no matter which way we go, because whether it's Panasonic or whether it's Fujitsu or whatever, there are several different agencies all using those, and so we get the state bid price on all of them. I don't think they're going to give us any more.
NASCAR and put their name on the side of our cars?
Yeah.
Anyone else? The only question I had is, does this set us up for the same problem we were trying to remedy by now we're gonna have 9 brand new ones at the same time? Are they all gonna die at the same time in 6 years?
Yes. So, except that now we know this little deal, and we're not going to let that happen. We'll do the phasing that we were starting to do. We're just not going to wait 7 years to do it, or 6 years really. We're going to start doing that probably about 3 years out, 4 years out. The problem, right, is that they've got this thing really well done for profit. So we can't just buy a new tablet and plug it into our old docking station. If I have the tablet and put it in the docking station today, that docking station will be obsolete next model year, which is next year. So we really, the reason we kept them all the same, and we kept buying older ones even when we had to replace them, was so that we could plug and play no matter which car we were going into. We could use it all over. Well, we're gonna have to change our mindset with that, because they do a good job of making you need to buy more stuff, which is a really good business model, I guess. But we're gonna have to get past that.
I mean, honestly, 50,000 for computer equipment isn't that big, as long as we know every 5 years we have to plan for that, but.
Yeah, I would rather
Maybe
do
it's
it.
like every 5th year we don't do a car and instead we do the computers or something like that.
I would rather do it every like starting in about 3 years, every time we get a car, you put a new tablet in it. You put a new computer in it, whatever it is, right? You include that in the cost of the car. And that's what we were trying to do this year. We were late.
Trustee Jeffrey?
I just wanted to ask, Chief, is 9 the right number? Like, knowing that we're growing and that, does that give you enough spares to do what you need to do if something?
It's the right number right now. We can always increase that as we go if we need to get more. But it's the right number for us to be able to equip the cars and have a couple of extras.
Trustee Kennerman?
Is that 55 for just the hardware? Does that include all the setup and everything?
Yeah, that includes everything. That's the maximum amount spent on this project.
Could this be phased in over 2 years? For example, 5 this year and 4 next year?
Those tablets are not going to make it. They won't take the next update. So Windows 10 is going to push out another update whenever they do, whether that's next month or 3 months from now, and it's not going to take it.
Like I said, we already lost one, And then we're just slowly trickling away.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of police equipment, specifically, what did you call those?
Mobile
I
data
mean,
tower.
computer equipment for their mobile technology needs not to exceed an amount of $55,000.
Second.
A motion, a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strack.
Yes.
Trustee sorry. Trustee Morris.
Aye.
Mayor Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Counterman.
Yes.
Trustee Jeffrey.
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Thank you.
Carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is discussion item 9A, ordinance 2020-655. Our discussion that we referenced last meeting about potentially passing an ordinance to increase the term of the mayor from 2 years to 4 years. I think this is on me because I brought it up, and all I was pointing out last time is 2 years is an exceptionally short term to actually have any consistency in leadership and to actually input any, I don't know, I guess, policy perspectives of the person who gets elected to this position. Having now been in this position for about a year, I feel like I'm just now getting my feet under me in time to decide whether I need to run again. And I think we should avoid that problem in the future by increasing the term to 4 years. And to kind of counterpoint myself, I would just point out there is some benefit to a 2-year term, which is you do get the change in leadership every 2 years. And if the public wants to change the mindset of the board, they can do that. So thoughts from the board. Trustee Ott.
I do agree with what the mayor said. I feel it is a learning experience and you do need the time to figure out what the hell you're doing. So that's all I gotta say. I support it.
Trustee Strack.
So I would have a question to start with about a term limit. So would that be 2 4-year terms? I guess you're saying yes. Anyway, so when I think about that, and this is similar to regular government and stuff, and I was sitting there thinking about, maybe President Trump has enough time to do something like this, and he could maybe stretch his term to 8 years and have 2 consecutive terms at 16 years, and all I can see is Nancy Pelosi in the corner going, no, no, no. And in light of the impeachment and all that, I personally think that we should leave it alone, keep it at 2 years, and every 2 years, let the public speak. If they enjoy what you're doing, they're going to vote you back in. If they don't like you, they're not going to vote you back in. When things are going great, 4 years is the best thing. John F. Kennedy could have been president 3 times, but when things go bad, they go bad, and then you're locked into the longevity of what you're trying to do. And at this time, I think Lac Bowie is still small enough that we don't have these huge projects. To me, if I want to accomplish something in a term, that's a personal objective, and maybe the motives for that are well heard and well founded and all that. But the town somewhat runs itself because we have great staff, and things just kind of fall in place. And it's the entire board that just kind of runs this whole thing. Basically, a mayor just leads the sheep sometimes. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Trustee Doherty.
I think it'd be better to have that particular board position at the same time period as the others. I don't think it makes sense that kind of the leadership position is a shorter term than the rest of the board. So I would be in support of that. Honestly, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we were really talking about, being able to have that ability to vote in new people, then we should make a motion to have the entire board every 2 years, and I don't think that's a good fit. So I think I think it all makes sense to be for, to be able to have good continuity, so.
Anyone else? Trustee Morris?
A couple questions. How many terms are you, or is Lac Bowie's mayor, allowed to serve currently? And
3 2s. Yep.
do we have an idea what the neighboring municipalities are doing with their mayors? in terms of,
4-year for sure, and that's the only one I know. Else? And kind of, the last thing I'll say is just to respond to some of the comments Trustee Strock had. I think he makes a good point. There is a benefit to the 2-year term, and that it does allow the public to react as quickly as they want to react. The one point I will strongly disagree with is the idea that the board, and particularly the mayor, should be allowing staff to drive the ship, which is kind of what you said. And I think that's great. We do have an exceptional staff here. They do a great job. But the entire idea of the board is that we set policy. And if the leader of the board and the one who is supposed to be saying, here are the policies I want to push and trying to get people to come along, only has 2 years to accomplish certain policies, it just doesn't happen. And I can tell you one key example that I'm experiencing now is I came in and said, when I ran for office, I want to try and get a library here. There's no way you can accomplish something like that in 2 years. It just doesn't happen. And to make the position 4 years allows whoever it is, and I haven't decided yet if I'm going to run again or whoever is going to take over after I finish my term, it allows them the opportunity to say, here are the things I want to accomplish and the time to actually try and accomplish them. So I think this is a great idea moving forward, and I intend to support it when we do vote on it next meeting. Trustee Strock?
I certainly agree that, it takes more than a couple of years. I think I've been working 6 years, maybe 8 years for a fire impact fee, and have gotten nowhere. So it's a very good point. I didn't really mean that we just let staff run everything, but the board makes the decisions about what we're going to do with the water tower and stuff. And so we give them that direction. I sympathize with trying to get anything done in 2 years, so that's all I can say. I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Trustee Morris?
follow-up to my question. 15 of the neighboring communities have elected mayors. Almost all of them are 4-year terms, and they're all term limited in one way or another. So,
How'd you find that fast?
power of Google, my friend.
Windows 10.
Anyone else?
Apple.
So this was on for discussion item tonight, so we're not taking action. Is there anyone who is opposed to bringing this back for action at the next meeting? Okay, it'll be on the next meeting's action item list, and we will vote then. Next item on the agenda is discussion item 9B, the Census Committee, and I will turn this over to Trustee Jeffrey because she raised it last meeting.
Well, I remember when we had a representative from the Census Bureau come to speak with us 4 or 5 months ago now, and really talked about the need for people in the local areas to be involved, whether it be in the hiring that they need to do of people to actually go out and do the census, whether it be a committee put together of people from the community, the schools, the towns, to help get out the word to complete the census, because so much of it can be done electronically now. And I just wanted to come back to us and see if we're gonna try and urge the formation of a committee. I haven't really heard of Keensburg or Hudson taking it on. I know that we as an administrative team in the school district have talked about it briefly, but it's not going anywhere. Do we want to try and help it go somewhere?
Questions, comments? Trustee Strock?
How come I always got something to say, huh? So I would like to be part of this. At this point, there are two things. Once, I think we can reach out to DRCOG and ask them, they have this whole thing ready to go March 1st. And I think we could use their help in something like that. But aside from that, as I understand it, so this electronic vote will come out to you once, and if you don't respond, it'll come back a second time. If you don't respond to that, you may get a notice, a written notice after that, and you can go that. But I think where we really need the help is the people that go out and knock on the doors to the veterans and the elderly people that can't get out or don't really know or that are suspicious. I think that's what we need to do, is go out in Old Town or New Town, it doesn't matter, and try to hit the people that are not responding. And of course, you're gonna get to their front door and it may say no soliciting and you may have to turn around, but I think that's the kind of the committee that we need to do. So that's my thought on that.
I guess my
I'd like
response,
to be part of it.
my response to that would be, I also want to be a part of it, but I've quickly learned that I don't have the time to lead it, which is why I was glad when you brought it up, because it looks like we have a leader.
Go.
I do think we should try and get something put together, whether it's someone on this board leading it or we find someone on the outside to lead it. I would love to be a part of the effort. I just don't have the time to lead it. The only thing I would point out is I think the actual going to door will be census workers themselves. And in fact, I think they would tell us not to do that for safety concerns and such. I think the purpose of this committee, at least what I understood from having listened to her presentation here and the presentation at CML, is take or make efforts to get people to respond to those initial communications so that you don't have to do the door-to-door, whether that's putting stuff in our own newsletter or using our town events to encourage people to respond when they get those postcards. And I think those are important efforts that need to happen. So I guess, Trustee Doherty?
So I would agree. I think what our role can be is I guess somewhat advertisement. So I think it should be like from now until it's over on the front of our website. I think it should be, we should have, maybe it's just like a logo or something that's on every one of our newsletters that goes out. I don't think we need to have like a specific section, but just a little image that says, don't forget to fill out your census form, on every single newsletter that we send out between now and the end of the census. And, just again, where it's on the webpage every time somebody goes there. It's on the newsletter every time they open up the newsletter. So we're giving them recurring reminders time and time again. I think the one thing that I think we should get as the town is, I think it would be good to understand the schedule and the dates from the census. From my understanding, this census is being ran significantly different than past censuses, including the 2010. And so they have a lot less boots on the ground than they did with like the past ones. So I'd like to understand dates, because maybe that's something that we put in the newsletter is, hey, expect people to come out, or hey, the time for you to file before you start getting notifications is now. And so maybe it's not the exact same thing in the newsletter every month, but it's, if we have information about their schedule and their timeline, we can have that. Have the website that they can go to if there is a website. Just all of that information that's in there in front of them every single month. And part of why I was thinking with the schedule is, I don't know, again, when things are wrapping up and if it's way too late for the majority of it, although they'll take answers essentially whenever they get the answers, even if they're really late. But potentially having somebody from the census set up a booth at our festival, or have people out.
Way done by then.
Is it completely done?
Yeah, it's like a 2-month process, March and April.
Is it?
Except for the boots on the ground and.
Because it used to be like a year and a half.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Well, so that's what I'm trying to understand is like what those dates really are, and because my guess is it might be like 2 months for the core, but a lot of times it'll linger while they're trying to get people that haven't registered, because they'll take a significant amount of time to make sure they've gotten as many people as physically possible, and the stragglers can take a long time, and so maybe it still makes sense. I see what you're saying, but I think understanding those up front, maybe it makes sense at some of the other events that we have throughout the summer. I don't know. So I think having that information would be helpful.
Just a point of information, I went to that little publicity soiree they had for the census on the steps of the Greeley courthouse. And I found it up there that you cannot be a census taker if you're an employee of a town. So I just want everybody to know that. We can get involved as a committee is concerned, but we actually can't, none of us can actually go out and do the counting or encourage people to do anything. It's just the employees of the town are not allowed. So that's the point.
So, Trustee Counterman?
Let me see if I understand you correctly, Trustee Ott. When you say you can't use the town, does that eliminate Trustee Dougherty's idea about putting this information in the newsletter? Is
No, it just eliminates the fact of any of us going out to get information from.
boots on the ground? Okay, well, I think Trustee Dougherty's idea is great. I think we need to follow up on that. And I might add that when we put the reminder in a newsletter, that we put the upcoming date, the voting date. So don't forget to vote on whatever, and don't, make sure we put that in there, because I'm sure a lot of people don't have that information either. Rather than just put go vote, go vote on what, where, and when. We put that also. And I also like the idea of having some kind of booth or some kind of advertisement during some of our summer events, even if we had just a brochure or flyer we could hand to people, or, at the Oasis or whatever.
I think these are all great ideas, and I think it shows that we do need some kind of committee, because we have a lot of people that have how we can make this work. The issue is they don't want it to be one town. They want it to be kind of regional, and that's what she told us there. It's what she talked about at CML. So I think if we have someone who's willing to be a point person that can coordinate with the school district, with Hudson, with Kingsburg, with Fort Lupton, with whoever it is to make a regional committee, I'm looking for hands of someone who's willing to step forward and do that. Oh, Trustee Jeffrey?
I agree to be the point person, which makes sense because I have ties in all of the communities. Am I allowed, or can I have authority from the board to use my trustee email address for that communication purpose?
I mean, that's government related to position, I would think, yeah.
And then if I can't find my contact information from the woman who came to give a presentation, do one of you probably have it and can get it to me? Okay. Okay.
Anything else on this? That's what you get. Next item on the agenda is discussion item 9C. Well, I guess before we move on, I should say, who here would be interested in participating with Trustee Jeffrey, aside from me and Trustee Strack? Anyone else?
I'll yank it up the
Okay.
rest of it.
Now discussion item 9C, the follow-up to the water CIP discussion. Mr. Staney.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. So after our last water CIP work session, I had follow-up conversation with our water engineer Sanchez and our water attorney Jeffers. And I think based on those conversations, what I think we can work with, what I'd recommend for our water CIP, we were looking at any potential use of that contingency fund this year. So I discussed with them about the Bar Lake storage agreement. There were water, legal, and engineering for this Castle Rock water swap. And there was water, legal, engineering of looking at some initial work with FRICO on phase 1 for Lake Henry. So the result of those discussions with both our water engineer and water attorney is that we could do that work within their current budgeted amounts that we have in our current budget for water engineering and water legal services. And I would recommend that we really don't dig into that 3 million CIP. We just add those legal engineering services out of, we already have budgeted. We already have an amount budgeted for water rights to start that. And then we look at these other projects that they had listed. We start just plugging those into our 5-year CIP plan. And we also then could proceed this year with the drilling of the one deep water well. So that's already in our budget. So that's kind of what I see after our work session and following up with the two water engineer and attorney.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
Answered your concern?
No, it was just up from last time.
Oh. Anyone else? I am fully on board with that. I think the great thing about not dipping into that that contingency money this year is we're about to do a water rate study. And if we know where we're at in terms of balance, and we can plan out those for the next 5 years as we do that rate study, that's going to be beneficial to everyone here and to the community at large. So I think that's a great plan. Anyone else? So I think your direction is the same as last time. Thank you. Next item is staff comments. Chief McCoy.
Okay, so you saw in a report here, we had a little interesting burglary in Keensburg. That was kind of fun. We ended up arresting both of those folks and boyfriend, girlfriend deal. And our call volume's been down a little bit, but we've had some more serious calls recently, and that one was a pretty serious one, took a lot of investigation. Some search warrants were involved in that, some things that were pretty in-depth. And then Sunday morning here, we had a little event in town that was a domestic violence, involved some guns and some shooting, and nobody got hurt, which was good, but we made an arrest for attempted second-degree murder. So that one's still being worked. So it's pretty intense investigation after a couple of search warrants looking for some weapons and some things. So unfortunately, both our new trainees were on. One of them was on each of these calls, so they got some good solid experience here. So they're hitting the ground running. They're both doing really well. So hopefully that will they'll keep doing that. They're in their second phase now of field training. They will be. We'll also be hiring another one here to replace Officer Nazarenas when he leaves in a couple of weeks. We're in the process of hiring them. Got an offer out to the new code enforcement officer who will start March 9th. She comes to us with about 4 years' experience as a code enforcement officer in North Glen. So it'll be good to have somebody that has that base foundation for code enforcement versus the two that we've had previously have been more people that wanted to be police officers, and we kind of put them into those positions, and I think that they did fine, but it'll be nice to have somebody with that background. We're hiring, we just interviewed today for the records clerk position that will be shared from Town Hall on our side. So hopefully we'll put an offer out here this week and get that person hired. So a lot going on with that, a lot of personnel and human resources type of things going on. That's about all I have, I think, for highlights.
Questions, Trustee Counterman?
When we hire a new police officer, do we furnish them with their uniforms and equipment?
They get their uniform, their first set of uniforms, coat, variety of different things. They do not get, their leather gear is not furnished, and their weapon is not furnished.
They get their vest and all, everything?
Yeah, their vest, we get them custom fitted for a vest, and they get that. And then they get $250, I think, a month uniform allowance after that, or $250 a year, I'm sorry. $250 a month, that'd be pretty good. $250 a year to replace those uniforms as they wear out.
When they leave, do they leave anything behind, or?
They have to leave that vest, even though it's custom fitted. That's about an $800 expense. So we keep that. If we have reserves or somebody that can use that, we let them use it. If their uniforms are in good enough shape, we'll keep them. We'll try to reuse them. But if anybody's worked here for very long, most of their uniforms are worn just from normal wear and tear.
Yeah, I was just noticing that we had some officers come and go in a short period of time, and I was wondering, if we can use their equipment when they leave.
Yeah, we can, and they usually leave their uniforms behind. So if they fit the next person that comes in, then that's good. If not, we've got a locker full of some variety of uniform items. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you for the update. Mr. Amy.
So put in the newsletter to don't update Windows 10. That would help out. So things are going along pretty smoothly down at the wastewater plant. As you've seen in my report, we're still hanging in there at about 60% capacity. Just fine tuning all our new equipment. Everything's running good down there. Same at the water plant. You can see production's up there, 2 million gallons for the month. I think we're gonna settle out here a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you get a lot of building, takes a while for it to get there, and then you have a lull before you get the next round. So I think we're gonna be okay for this year, and we're doing the master plan update and all that anyway, so, we're in good shape. You guys, no reason for me to go over the water CIP since we went over it last week. We're gonna get started on the cleaning and jetting of the sewer lines here, in March. And then, the air conditioning for the MCC is being installed week after next. We're presently working on, switching out the ultraviolet system right as we talk. Our project started on Monday. And, other than that, the only thing we gotta do is, start pricing out the pumps for the RO. And that's it. We're way ahead of schedule.
Questions or comments for Mr. Amy? Thank you for the update. That was an easy night. Mr. Bloom?
I just had a couple things to add to my report. Asphalt Specialties contacted me Friday. They're going to start this coming Monday for the County Road 2 widening, taking out the asphalt and dirt work. And by the time they get that all done, they'll be able to probably do some concrete work and some asphalt once they get that all down. So if the weather cooperates, they'll be here Monday. We interviewed for an operations manager, made an offer today. We don't know whether they're going to accept or not, but we did interview. And the roof here on Town Hall is supposed to get started on that April 1st. And I guess
That's, so there was the big hailstorm we had about 2 summers ago. So we're finally getting the repair work done on the damage that was done to the roof.
that's all I got.
Is that an insurance repair, or are we paying for that?
CIRSA came out and assessed the damage and has made a payment to us for the repair.
Questions for Mr. Bloom? No, trustee Hector.
You have in your report that United Power is getting ready to start the new gas line on County Road 37?
Yes.
United Power, that's gas? Okay, that was, okay.
Oh, yeah, I guess that was the wrong company.
No, no worries, I was. Everybody gets into different things, I was curious if they were getting into gas center, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, thanks.
Okay, anything else? Mr. Stamey?
One thing you probably noticed too, that the roundabout contractor has started mobilization, and they're doing their work out there. We do have follow-up meetings on our calendars. We're filling up with the different development interests we have in town to try and get updates on their schedules and their plating and their water rights kinds of questions. So we're following up with all of that. We do have a development review meeting coming up with FRICO on their project. And FRICO has also submitted a site plan for their corporate office building. So we'll start that process as well. And for the Snow property, which is the property around the Shell station, they have submitted now an updated revised subdivision plan based on our review meeting we had with them probably 6 months ago. And they're primarily re-subdividing the lots at front, across from Subway. They're creating a series of lots along that, as well as some off-street parking. And so we're still, I did meet with CDOT to initiate their IGA for the Lac Bowie Greenway Trail. I have a follow-up meeting with CDOT here in a week or two. Process and requirements, so I'll follow up with that too.
Any questions, trustee Strapp?
Is the Snow property a commercial mixed-use district?
It's commercial zoning.
Trying to put residential in there?
No, they're trying to create some commercial lots.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry, thank you.
Trustee Doherty?
I'm fidgety.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for the updates. Next is Mayor Trustee comments. Trustee Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor. When we were talking about the census, I immediately thought also, in addition to Trustee Strzok's comments about senior citizens that may not have access to technology, we still have a number of people living in poverty who also won't have internet at home, and I think particularly of our Hispanic population, which then led me to start thinking about making sure bilingual materials were available, which then made me start to wonder if our newsletters are published in both languages, and if not, I would like to make a suggestion that we consider doing that moving forward and publicize it. I'd love to see a bilingual person run for town board somewhere down the road. Represent that culture. Thank you. That's all I have.
So I have one thing, mainly the computer systems for the police department kind of got me thinking. So I think a while ago, as a board, we talked about, the police cars and trying to get them on a maintenance and an upgrade routine. I think we've done that with other things throughout the town as well, as we identified them. The roads we're trying to get onto kind of a routine where they're on a routine maintenance plan, an upgrade plan for our roads, and just general things in town. And I think it's maybe difficult for me as a board member to know what all that is. But I would imagine that staff uses computers. When was the last time the computers got upgraded? So should we start thinking about that? And I guess this kind of explodes quickly in my mind, but all of the things that are out there that really should be looked at as a 5-year maintenance on computers, on whatever we have. And again, I don't really want to be the person that comes up with that list. I'm guessing there's a significant long list of things that we really should have a better understanding, that we should have a plan in place on upgrading. I don't know when you guys got the last computer. Maybe it's just when one dies and we get a new one. And maybe that's not the best solution, because then it'd be a pain for IT to maintain, different versions of computers, different styles of computers with BIOSes, all the stuff that goes into that. And again, I don't want to limit this to just computers. It's kind of one of the first things that comes to mind. But there's building maintenance, and maybe building maintenance is a little bit easier because we know when we need to change air filters and things like that. But just in general, especially bigger cost items, or even things that they all come due the same year, and all of a sudden nobody. And they don't have like a physical expiration date. They just expire when they all start to die, and all of a sudden we have surprises. And no fault to anybody about that. I just think maybe if we can have staff go under kind of the undertaking to try to put together a list of, these are all the things, again, things is a really large term, but that we really should be looking at with a maintenance plan. So we can look at it maybe for revising this year's budget, but especially going into next year's budget, understanding that we should probably start looking into that. So that's all that I have.
I went to the CML legislative workshop on the 13th, which it was a little challenge to get down there with the way the weather was. But it was interesting to see some of the at least attempts at bipartisan stuff. We'll see if that transpires. I wouldn't hold my breath. But there was some interesting stuff on the League of Cities and homelessness and some other stuff, and I'd be interested to hear what Trustee Morris has to say about the policy committee. So that's all I have.
Trustee Strzok?
It's kind of an off note. The Advisory Commission on Aging, or the AAA down at Dr. Cog and in the Denver area, has started a new voucher program, which gives people that are homebound, don't have vehicles and stuff, a voucher that'll put them on a light rail, it'll put them on a bus. They're trying to work out Uber and Lyft with these vouchers. It's actually changing people's lives to get out of their houses and go places, whether it's a doctor's office or just a haircut somewhere. They're also, at the same time, well, this program is doubled as far as contracts in just a couple of months, and it's gonna blow up because they're also gonna offer vouchers for personal care. If you need a doctor or a nurse or someone, a therapist to come to your house. They'll also have vouchers for doing maintenance on your house and stuff. You could have somebody, people that qualify could have their walk shoveled, they could have their gutters cleaned, they could have things fixed in their houses with these vouchers. What I'm trying to get at is they're trying to go through how you organize these things and put volunteers together and pay for the insurance and make it all right, so that you can take people and use the volunteers the best they can. And so it'll be interesting to see as they weed through all the legalities of doing these things. And Weld County also has a AAA, and I believe they'll probably start the same kind of voucher system in the future. That's all. Thank you.
Morris?
Thank you. I appreciate Trustee Ott attending the legislative update thing for me. I was at work that day. Due to the weather, I ended up being held over on that Friday and unable to attend the policy committee meeting, but I have kept in touch with the committee and the proceedings from it. Things are happening. One thing that I'll just comment on that it would be of special interest to us is something that the policy committee is opposing, and we'll see what it shakes out. But the Senate is introducing legislation. They have a bill in the works that changes or modifies the way annexation works, and that is a complicated, convoluted process in and of itself. But some of the changes that the Senate is wanting to ram through would lengthen the process significantly. It would put massive restrictions and complications on any annexation that would cross a county line. And as far as currently, as long as there is 1/6 contiguousness, annexation can proceed, but they want to increase that, in fact, double it to not 1/6 of borders, but now 1/3. There's other things that would require IGAs between multiple entities, gives the county ability to veto it or throw up massive roadblocks on it. So the position of the committee is to oppose it. That will be following closely, and edge of the seat excitement, my friends.
Did they give any explanation as to what's motivating that?
Yeah.
No, this one came kind of, the committee was kind of blindsided. You may know more, but there was really no advance information that this one was in the works until it.
War between the county commissioner of El Paso and Colorado Springs. This is where this whole thing came from. Bipartisan support. It's just a personal vendetta between a county commissioner in El Paso and Colorado Springs. And from talking to Kevin, they're pretty sure it's not going to go anywhere. But they just want you to be aware because it is a convoluted mess that they're trying to come up with. But yeah, it's just a personal vendetta between two people.
I think actually Colorado Springs annexed property on the Air Force Academy grounds. So they jumped I-25. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but you come down south on I-25 and you hit Monument, and then you pretty much hit the Academy, and that's unincorporated El Paso County. But they've now, Colorado Springs jumped I-25 and grabbed at the Northgate area for a new visitor center and a hotel development and everything that's happening there. And some people at the county aren't happy about it, and that spurred that legislative bill.
Stuff. A question came up recently about our IGA with the local rec centers, the Brighton one and the Fort Lupton one. Wondering if at some point in the future we could get an update on participation rates, how many households are taking part in that. And then I guess the question that secondary to that is, are we promoting that adequately? Do our residents know, are they aware that we have that opportunity for those 2 rec centers? And then kind of an extension of that is, have we, or I guess correction, is it possible or has it been possible to explore a similar agreement or IGA with the Brighton Oasis? That the town could help subsidize the cost. Not that it's a huge deal, an annual membership at the Oasis for a family for a Brighton resident is $250, and a non-resident is $300. And then in the first couple of months of the year, they offer a 50% discount on pass holders. Anyway, it's something else that we could promote to support families in our town in providing opportunities for recreation and wellness and fitness and entertainment and healthy alternatives for kids besides melting their brain on computers or vaping or whatever. So thought I would bring those things up, and that's it.
Trustee Gunnerman?
I missed the work session. Try to get caught up on what you discussed during it. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Did you get the packet that we had? No. Should talk to either Steve or Linda afterward and at least get that.
Thank you.
I did have a question. Have we done an updated IGA here with Brighton? Rec Center? And we haven't done it. So do we technically, they're all over? Okay. I was just curious if we have lots of citizens that are accidentally paying discounts and shouldn't be technically under IGA. Okay. But you made me think about it.
And maybe I think Trustee Morris raised a couple of good points there. Maybe what we do is bring this as a discussion item at our next meeting, the existence of our 2 current IGAs and whether we want to continue them, which seems like a given, but at least worth talking about, and then whether we should reach out for other IGAs with Brighton or whoever. So let's put that as discussion for our first March meeting. I don't have anything tonight special, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned at